if I have to summarize what we saw last time, the most important point was David Rohl's new chronology, which challenges the old Egyptian chronology. Okay, that's number one. In the sense that he puts Ramses not at 1250, but he puts Ramses at the year 12, more or less, parallel to Shlomo HaMelech. Now, he has a whole explanation for this, and one of the most important things to point out is that he's not working like a biblical apologetic. He's an Egyptologist. He has enough evidence for that. Actually, I wanted to show you some of the evidence that he has. I talked to you about. I spoke to you about archaeoastronomy, right? That was the main thing, which is that when you compare the text and the records of the Egyptians in astronomical things like observations of eclipse or observations of the moon, etc., and they have this record, and actually many papyri were found with these observations. When you go back, the old chronology fails a lot, whereas the new chronology, David Rohl's chronology, fits almost perfectly. So, among other things, he has evidence also from this discipline, from archaeoastronomy, which makes a very strong case for it. So this is from a professor called Lapin, Daniel Lapin, which is who is an expert in archaeoastronomy. So he says, one second. In contrast, in the new chronology David Rohl's is entirely consistent with the findings of this paper, which show the coincidence between the dates that he signals and the records. It is important to point out that the majority of the dates in this comparison were derived by entirely different methods. While this is not a definite proof that the new chronology is correct, any argument that the astronomical data unequivocally disproves the new chronology can be rejected. Of equal importance is the fact that astronomy does not support the orthodox, the old chronology, as many have attempted to maintain. In summation, most of the astronomical data, particularly the 12th dynasty lunar dates, simply do not fit with the orthodox chronology, while the support it gives to David Rohl's new chronology is nothing less than startling. So it's not just archaeology, we have information from here. You need to know also that unlike the records of the Jewish kings in the Torah, in the Tanakh, for example, there are no solid records of the pharaohs or dates. It's all reconstructions over reconstructions. And once in the academy, once they get fixed in their minds with one type of chronology, it's very difficult for them to leave it, because the reputation of many academics is on the line for that. So it's not easy to change their minds. Okay, so now let's talk about a little bit about dates right now. So if Ramses was in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, obviously Ramses was not the pharaoh of the Exodus, as most of all academics would claim, and following the movie Ten Commandments, etc., you will find that there. Once we understand that, I want to talk a little bit about the date of the Exodus. So, what was the date of the Exodus? Is there any reference in the Torah, in the Tanakh, about the date of the Exodus? How can we know? Yeah.
Because we follow the ancestry, and that's how we can approximate.
Okay.
You know?
What else?
I think the Torah says that this is the first month of the first year. They kept the calendar.
The first month of the first year, but
They came out of Egypt.
that's not enough. Okay, but there are two pesukim. I'm going to show you one of them that talk about it. They discuss it. They talk about it. So you will see now what is the Jewish version of the date of the Exodus, and that is very simple. I thought I have it enough. Okay, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to read for you in the book of Melachim. In the book of Melachim, in Melachim Aleph, chapter 6, Pasuk 1, check for it. Melachim Aleph, chapter 6, Pasuk 1. Okay, you want to read for me? I'm going to read it to you in Hebrew. It is about the dedication of the Bet HaMikdash, which was done in the 4th year of Shlomo HaMelech. Okay, now it says, I'm going to read for you. You found it?
6 what?
ויהי ב-80 שנה ו400 שנה לצאת בני ישראל מארץ מצרים.
480
In the 480th year after Bnei Israel left Egypt, in the 4th year of the reign of Shlomo HaMelech, in the month of Ziv, the 2nd month, he began to build the temple of the Lord, the temple of Borei Olam. What is there? Wait. So, what is more or less the year of Shlomo HaMelech? More or less, according to classic chronology.
1000 BC.
1000 BC. To be more exact, 970. Okay, give and take. This is also approximate, 970. This is when he became a king for the first time. So we're talking about the 4th year, 966, etc. Let's say 970. Okay. Now, if you add to 970, 480 years, what do you do? What do you get? 1450. 1450. So, the Jewish date, if there is such a thing, for the Exodus is 1450. Now, I ask myself, if the Torah is so clear, which most of you probably didn't know, that this date was registered in the Torah, why the academic world insisted with the 1250, having zero evidence for that, except for the mentioning of Ramses in the Torah, Piton of Ramses, which could be, the name Ramses could be something much, a general name, and for one unverified relationship between Shoshank and Shishak. I don't know if you got to see all the documents that I sent you. And the reason I have to believe that, I have reason to believe, and I have no other explanation, that this is something that makes the academic world feel comfortable. Because if you say 1250, then you find nothing. You understand? Then you find nothing. So there is like this complete lack of objectivity when we talk about archaeology, when we talk about our Torah. Archaeologists are not innocent academics that are exploring things, and reading without an agenda. They do have an agenda. Let me read for you something I found today. Just was reading something about some archaeological excavations they did in El Amarna. It doesn't have anything to do with David Roll's idea, but they found some graves of slaves, etc. So one idea was that maybe we're talking about Hebrew slaves, blah 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 blah. Now the title is "In Ancient Mass Graves, Archaeologists Find Child Slaves of Biblical Egypt." Okay, so this Biblical Egypt, they belong to the time of Akhenaton, which is a pharaoh before Ramses the famous Ramses II, but they all belong to the 18 and 19 dynasty. I don't want to confuse you, but this is the 18 and 19 dynasty. These are the dynasties in which, according to
King Tutankhamun was from that.
Tutankhamun was in the 18th dynasty, yes. Ramses II was in the 19th dynasty. Okay, so look at the arguments that they use. For example, a very famous archaeologist that works in Egypt, okay, when he was faced with this question, maybe these bones of Amarna project belong to Hebrew slaves, etc. Listen carefully to what he has to say. The director of the Amarna project and chairman of the Amarna Trust, English archaeologist and Egyptologist Professor Barry Kemp, responded promptly via email regarding the question of identifying this with Hebrew slaves. And I read, quote unquote, "I'm afraid that I do not accept the Old Testament narrative as a historical fact, and therefore that there is any connection between Amarna and Hebrew slaves." So he has this
automatic dismissal.
Automatic dismissal that the Torah, unlike any other they don't do that with other documents. They get the dates of the pharaohs from the fragments of scarabs, how you say? These little insects that
Scarabs.
Scarabs?
Yes.
Oh, from these little fragments of scarabs, escarabajos. And but the Torah, the explicit dates of the Torah, they always dismiss. So I am not amazed that something as clear as the date that the Torah is giving, Shlomo HaMelech, 1450, this is completely dismissed. They don't relate to it at all. So this is the most important thing you need to see, because you are going to listen to my voice, but you're going to be listening to, if you go to study biblical archaeology, to 100 voices that are going to say something completely different. They're going to say, no, it's from says the second. And if you don't have enough information, then why wouldn't you believe to what they have to say? Okay, so that is to begin with. Now, again, what happens if we go to 1450? Okay, now I want to go now to Yosef. If we go to 1450 as the date of the Exodus, according to our Torah, okay. So when was Yosef?
1850.
200. Yes, Mr. Sazon.
60 years before.
200, more or less 200 years earlier. Very good. So let me show you what David Roll says. David Roll says he has a date for it. Of course, this is approximately, but he says Yosef came to Egypt, he says, approximately the year 1670. And Yaakov came in the year 1660. Okay, or 1662, he says. So, approximately, we are talking, if you calculate what Chachamim said, Redu Shana, the Torah says 210 years were the Jews in Egypt since the time of Yaakov arrival to Mizraim. Of course, there is machloket exactly how to understand and the 430 years, etc. All that, but this is a very good reference that we have, an internal reference in the Torah. Now, next thing we have to do, if we say that approximately Yosef is 1650, 1660, okay, and the Exodus was 1450, all right. So now my question will be what? Who was the Pharaoh at that time? What period are we talking about? And here we have these two. Are you following me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So we have the arrival of the Jews to Egypt, more or less. Okay. Of course, this is all BC. Okay. And we have Exodus 1450 according to the Tanakh, etc. So who was the Pharaoh here? And the answer will be, it depends. It depends if we talking, if we follow the old chronology, or if we follow David Roll's chronology. Okay, so I gave you some type of evidence today about David Roll's chronology, which is more accurate than the other one, and we're going to go to the first document I sent to you in the chat, document number 1. Do you have your phones, gentlemen? Sorry, and ladies. So if you have that there, 1 second, please.
Where they got that? He said, like, 248. They came out and they shot blood.
That's a different thing. Let me. I will get there. Okay. So, do you have the first document I sent you?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you see that? Okay. So you have here is a very simple table of the dates of the different dynasties. So we want to learn only a few names. Okay. The Old Kingdom, which is when the pyramids were built. Then the first intermediate period, all right, which is a intermediate period means a period where wars and invasions, and it's like saying the Dark Ages, okay. Then I want you to pay attention to the Middle Kingdom of Egypt. Middle Kingdom of Egypt, in most chronologies, it includes the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th dynasty. Here, you see, here is like with the question mark, you see. But most of them include 12. You familiar with that? The Middle Kingdom is 11, 12, and 13 dynasty. Now, what is the second intermediate period? What is that period from the 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th dynasty? These are the Hyksos. So again, 14 to 17 dynasty. These are the Hyksos. How you call it? Dynasties? DY, and at the end. Okay. YY. Okay. So from the 14 to the 17 dynasty, you have the Hyksos. Who are the Hyksos? The Hyksos were Semites. Now, how do you say Semites in Egyptian? I told you this, I think, the first class. Anybody remembers? How do you say in English, but in Egyptian, Semites? So they call it Asiatics. You forgot?
Yes.
Asiatics. And there is an Egyptian word for it, which I don't remember. But they are called Asiatics. Asiatic. Asiatic. Like Asia. Like Asian.
From Asia.
From Asia. Okay? So Asiatics means from the north means Semites, okay, and they are described with a lighter complexion, lighter skin, and with different clothing also, with beard, non-bald. They didn't shave their heads as the Egyptians did. Okay, so the Hyksos, they rule Egypt here between this 14th and 3rd and 17th dynasty. The $1 million question is, what time are we talking about? So you see, for the old school, if here you have that the Hyksos reigned until 1550, and the Pharaoh of Exodus supposed to be Ramses 1250, so the Joseph came like after the Hyksos, and all the slavery happened between the Hyksos and Ramses II, between 1550 and 1250. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. Now, if we go to Rolls chronology, and 200 and 250 years up, and instead of having this 1250, we go to 1450, we get a completely different story. Are you following me?
Sure.
Okay. So if we do this, if we go to 1450, following David Roll, then we are not after the Hyksos. We are before the Hyksos. We are actually in the Middle Kingdom.
Yes.
So, okay.
Not the 12th
In the
dynasty.
Middle Kingdom. So according to David Roll, we are at everything from the coming of Joseph to Egypt up to the Exodus happened between the 12th and the 13th dynasty. Clear?
Yes.
More or less? Is that clear? So everything happened between 12th and 13th dynasty in the Middle Kingdom. And right now, we are going to identify who could be the Pharaoh of the time of Joseph. All right?
Wow.
Should I
Please.
summarize again, or?
We got
Summarize it.
Yeah?
Summarize
Okay.
again.
I summarize again. So, you have the old traditional school, academic school, that is like everybody thinks that way. Okay? So you have, for example, the Ixos, you have the 12 and 13 dynasty finishing by 1700. Okay? 1700, 12 and 13 dynasty ends. Then you have the Hyksos from 1700 to 1550 for 150 years. Clear? Okay. Then you have 1250. Supposedly that's Ramses II, and supposedly this is when the Exodus happened. Okay. And then the archaeologists says we didn't find anything in 1250. All right. Okay. This is the normal Orthodox chronology. Come David Rolls, and as I explained to you, it has a lot of backup, especially from archaeoastronomy, and he says, no. There is a gap of approximately 250 years here, which is not to justify the Bible. It's not a Bible apologetic. He has done this before coming to the Bible. He just discovers, says, wait a second, according to my new chronology, all what the Bible says is true. Okay, and is showing that. Therefore, then, according to David Roll, the Hyksos, they came after 1450, and the Jews, the Hebrews, with Joseph, they came approximately 1660. And bear in mind that according to Jewish chronology, okay, the Yetziat Mitzrayim was 480 years before the building of the Beit HaMikdash, as it says in Melachim. So we have the year 14 and 50 for the Exodus. So everything changes, and therefore, according to David Roll, according to this new archaeology, Joseph and Yaakov were by the end of the 12th dynasty, and Moshe was in the 13th dynasty, and all the slavery happened between the 12th and the 13th dynasty, before the invasion of the Hyksos. Okay? Now we're going to try to identify one of these pharaohs, and we will see what do we find. This is amazing, and the most. Wait a second. I have another document here. I have document 2. You see, now we. This is according to. This is a comparison between the. Do you see the second document?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen.
Now, this is a table of the 12th dynasty. What is OC? It means all chronology. Now, NC, new chronology, David Roll. So now, I'm not going to name all the names, but I want to show you, like for example, Amenemhat III. You see Amenemhat III?
Yes.
He belongs to the 12th dynasty. This is the Middle Kingdom, right?
Correct.
And according to the old chronology, is 1817, 1772. According to the new chronology, this is 1678, 1631. What dates I gave you for Joseph? If we do even the right, 1660. So Amenemhat is a very good candidate to be the pharaoh of Joseph. Okay, so right now we're gonna learn what happened in the time of Amenemhat, of this pharaoh Amenemhat, belonging to the 12th dynasty. All right. Ooh. Gentlemen, are we okay?
Perfect.
Okay. So let me read for you some things from Amenemhat. I'm reading from the book of David Roll right now. Okay. So in the time of the pharaoh, according to the new chronology, was Amenemhat III, the pharaoh of Joseph, the greatest and longest ruling king of the 12th dynasty. Now, what do we know about him? A few incredible things. First of all, during his reign, Egypt suffered a terrible and prolonged famine. Who said drought? Okay. A prolonged famine, which seems, now, you would think, if you don't read here, and if you don't read the Torah, I mean, this is unfair what I'm saying right now. If you read the Torah with a lot of precision, which I didn't know before I encountered it here, that it wasn't a drought. Okay, so please listen carefully. During his reign, Egypt suffered a terrible and prolonged famine, which seems to have been caused by severe flooding of the Nile. Not drought, like flooding of the Nile. Where do we find a hint for this in the Torah? You will see. Okay, and now it shows the statue of Amenemhat III that you can see here, and it shows that, for example, you can see the suffering of Egypt etched on the faces of the king and his co-regent in their very human stature. Well, he describes here, Egyptian art, which I'm not very familiar with, but the large outturned ears show a willingness to hear the concerns of the people. The careworn faces with furrow lines show kings in stress. Nothing like the standard, rather bland faces we see in most Egyptians' portraits, etc. All right. Now, for several years, the Nile flood was 4 times higher than normal. So let me tell you, because it's a little bit complicated, and I'm gonna instead of reading, I'm gonna explain to you what happened. Okay? So, but I'm getting all the information from this book, which has the information from the records, because the Egyptian they recorded the flooding of the Nile. As you might know, every year by the month of between June and September, the Nile overflowed, and this is how all the area that surrounds the Nile became very fertile. Okay, and it was like a festival for them. Okay. Now, look at this. The normal level of the Nile was 29 feet. When the Nile got to 29 feet, it flooded what it had to flood. Then the waters receded, okay, and everything was good. Sometimes the Nile got to 25 feet instead of 29 feet. Then, when it was 26 feet instead of 29 feet. When it was 26 feet, then Paro lowered taxes because there was no so much food. All right. Now, when the Nile got to 32 feet, okay, height, then he raised taxes because it was a year of plenty. Now we have records. Something exceptional happened toward the end of the 12th dynasty, in the time of Amenemhat. Okay, in the third year of Amenemhat, the level consistently reached a mark of 55 feet. 55 feet was a lot, was plenty. So the area that was covered now was much higher, much larger, and there were years of plenty, okay, which very much coincides with the 7 years that Joseph was saying, that for the next 7 years, okay, that there is going to be plenty. Now, at that moment, Joseph did only something that you can only do if you know what's going to happen afterwards. Of course, in those years, the grain was very cheap. Everybody was willing to sell, and Joseph bought everything at a very low price. But then what happened? After these years, then according to those same Nile records, disaster struck. In the year 20, the flood peak rose to 41 cubits, which is 69 feet. Instead of 55, it's 69, where the normal is 30. It says 29, 30. Okay, now let me read for you. Suddenly, the abundant Nile of the previous year became a terrifying threat to the survival of the Egyptian Middle Kingdom. The Nile floodwaters swept over the valley like a tsunami, bursting levees, drowning livestock, washing away the mud brick village built on low-lying sandy mounds along the valley floor. Temples were flooded, tombs filled with dead detritus. The mounds along the valley floor, the whole land came to a grinding halt as people struggled with the consequences of the abnormally gigantic flood. This might have been manageable as a one-off occurrence, but it happened for several years. So the thing is that it's not a drought. It was overflowing of the Nile that prevented the waters to come back, to recede. So the waters did not recede. The waters stay there for a while. So when the waters are there, it's like flooded. You cannot grow anything. Do you see the problem? So here it has some incredible observation. If you see in the Pasuk of the Torah, when Yosef talks about the years of famine, he says 7 years, Asher en Harish vekatzir, which means what? There is no harvest, but it says is no plowing. Now, why there is no plowing? If there is drought, you plow and you hope for rain or you hope for something. But when Yosef says Asher en Harish vekatzir, there is no plowing and no harvesting. Wow, it's incredible. It's because it was overflowed. So it's an incredible thing. So you appreciate the exquisite precision of our Torah and how, if I wouldn't know this, I read this so many years, I never pay attention to this. Now, what is a little bit tricky is that is that in Canaan there was a drought, and because in Canaan there was a drought, everybody was coming to Egypt. So he explains here, and I have to read this for you. So he explains something that has to do with meteorology. So if you have a little bit of patience, you know where the Nile is born, right? So he says this climatic event brought tropical rains to Ethiopia, normally associated with the equatorial zone, and a northward movement of the Arabian Desert zone into Canaan, producing hot winds from across the Rift Valley of the Jordan. This turned the already marginal pasture lands of the southern highlands of Judea and the northern Negev into inhospitable desert. You understand? So the same climatic event that produced tropical rains in Ethiopia, which elevated the level of the Nile very, very high, affected the north in a way that there was no rain. So he says, we have witnessed just such a climate shift in recent history, when in 2012 the continental USA suffered a severe and prolonged heat wave and drought, whereas at the very same time the UK was enduring the wettest year on record. All this due to a southward shift of the jet stream. So in the same climate event can produce a lot of rain in one place and drought in the other place. So that explains this. It's an incredible thing. Now, all these records of the Nile being flooded and receding the waters, losing the waters. Why would archaeologists dismiss all this as some type of proof? to say the least, because the time doesn't fit, because the Jews were there in the time of Ramses II, so nothing fits. You understand? Now, when you see that this happened in the time of Amenemhat, is wow. Amenemhat is this when, according to a new chronology, fits exactly with Yosef. Okay, but this is not the only thing that consider. There are other things that are really amazing. I wrote about this, so I gave you one link that I gave you here. You see when it says droughts and floods al half the day, I wrote about it, so you have a little more explanation here. But hold it there. I have to show you something else that is amazing. In the time of Amenemhat III, something was done close to the Nile. So I'm going to try my best to draw this for you. So this is the Nile. This is the Nile. And this is the son of the delta. Okay. And now, in the time of Amenemhat built a new, like a artificial lake here. Okay, artificial lake here. Now, with this artificial lake, what did he do? When the Nile overflows, what will happen? You open this channel here, and the water will go here in the reservoir. This will prevent the Nile from overflowing. And in the times of a dry Nile, you would use these waters here. So there is a whole, and this is called Lake Moeris. Lake Moeris, and you can, Lake Moeris. You can check it in Wikipedia. Okay, I didn't put it here. And it was described by Herodotus. You heard of Herodotus, like something fascinating. This artificial lake that he built. It seems that Amenemhat was very taken by this building, was so taken with this operation to divert the flood waters into Lake Moeris that he built his tomb near Lake Moeris, looking at Lake Moeris, because that was like the achievement of his life, like his legacy for the future. He was saving Egypt with that. He built his tomb and his labyrinth overlooking the canal, but he also erected two colossal statues of himself at the mouth of the canal where it disgorged into the lake. Okay, so he brings here all the praises for it, in the time of Herodotus, etc. But who was in charge of doing all this? The Torah doesn't give a lot of detail, right? But who was the man in charge of agriculture and the Nile and everything? Who was there? Yosef. Okay. Now the Torah doesn't say anything. Through this huge engineering project to divert the flood waters is not mentioned in the book of Genesis. The building of the canal and the storage of grain were actions which saved Egypt from the worst of the famine. Now, you ready? Hold your chairs. There is no archaeological evidence except for one thing that puzzles everyone. There is a name until today of this channel that connects the Nile with Lake Moeris, and the name of this channel is Bahr Yusuf. Until today, it's called Bahr Yusuf. Now, why? Why is it called Bahr Yusuf? So go to Wikipedia. I uploaded for you here. Bahr Yusuf, you have it there. And even Wikipedia says that without giving any explanation, it says, I'm reading the last sentence, the Bahr Yosef still exists today. Oh no, wait a second. Sorry, the first paragraph, I'm sorry. The Bahar Yosef is a canal which connects the Nile River with Fayum in Egypt. Fayum is this zone. In ancient times, it was known as Merwer, the Great Canal. The project was built at the time of Amenemhat III, Wikipedia, who was also known as Moeris. That's why Lake Moeris. Okay, the Arabic name refers to the prophet Yusuf. Who is the prophet Yusuf? The Quranic counterpart of the biblical Yosef. So until today, this is called Bahar Yosef, the canal of Yosef.
But why did the
What were
Muslims?
the Egyptians called?
I don't know, but you see a tradition that is like for millennia.
More than 700-800 years old, if it's an Arabic name.
I know.
Why
but
would
it-
they name this canal?
Well, because it probably they had this tradition that was built by
passed
Yosef.
down verbally, you mean?
Yeah, it's incredible how many things were passed down verbally from the. Listen, gentlemen, this is a very important question. From the ancient Egyptian culture to the Muslim, let's say Egypt, many things. I watch a presentation about it. So well, this is one of them. Now, following that, all right. So it's a very interesting thing, right? Again, we cannot see any inscription. This was built by Yosef, all right. But there are a lot of evidences, like the time of Amenemhat III, the importance that he gave to it, and the name Bahar Yosef. All right. Now, next to here, a big city was found. Now, this city has a very interesting name. And the name of the city in Arabic is Hawara. Hawara. And in English they call it Avaris. Okay? It's Hawara. Now, there are, as we speak, there are archaeological excavations done in this place. Now, this place, David Roll identifies this as Goshen, as the land of Goshen. And of course, this is in the delta in the northeast. Now, in this same place, the Ixos live. There is a very famous archaeologist, Manfred, you can Google him, Bietak. He's an Austrian, he's from Austria, archaeologist. He has been working there for 4 years. 4 years. And he had made, now, he belongs to the academic world. Therefore,
He doesn't believe in the Bible.
Therefore, he is born to the old archaeology. Therefore, anything that he finds here belongs, any Semitic thing that he finds here belongs to the Hyksos. Perfect, thank you. Somebody's following. Belongs to the Hyksos. And he doesn't believe in the historicity of the Bible. Another thing you need to know is the political nuances of excavations in Egypt. So let me ask you, okay, would Egypt or the director of the museum, or the Cairo Museum, or those who direct this archaeological project, would be happy or unhappy if you have something that confirms the historicity of the Bible? You might think, well, if the Bible is confirmed, the Quran is also confirmed. But what do you think is more important for them? Because the Bible is confirmed, it means that the Jews are real. If the Jews are real, has immense political consequences. So I'm telling you right now that they would do anything to hide and to cover it up. The best thing to cover it up is to maintain the old chronology, because if you maintain the old chronology, then everything doesn't match. This is the Hyksos. This is not the Semites. Yes.
We have Israeli teams, archaeology teams that come to research this area.
No. No archaeology, no Israeli, no.
Teams
No, Israeli, no. And
doing all over Israel.
right, I know. I talk about that the first class, and
Yeah.
I am not also a fan of that. Okay, so let me go a little further. What did he discover? What did Manfred Bietak discover in this place? Okay, what can you discover there that could prove somehow the presence of right? So he found. This is what he found. He found a house in a lower strata, okay, that belongs, let's say, to 1650. All right. Therefore, for Bietak, this will be the Hyksos. Okay. For Roll, this will be the Amenemhat. Okay. To belong to the 17th century BCE, and he found a house. Now, this house, he says, this is Bietak, which is not a biblical lover at all. Okay, so he says that this house, I'm reading, they came across the foundation of a large villa laid out in the ground plan of a North Syrian dwelling. So this house looked like belonging to the North Syrian type of houses. What reminds you of North Syrian? Who came from Abraham? And Haran this is where Jacob went also to find a wife. In Canaan, they lived mainly in tents. All right. So he says it is something completely reasonable. That this will be a house. So he says this could be the house of Jacob. Okay. He says, but then in a higher level, on that house, they build a palace. This palace is already a little more Egyptian. Okay, and he describes in 3 pages. I'm not going to read for you the whole thing. This amazing palace. So, for example, it says this impressive building is fronted by a portico of 12 wooden columns. The most interesting thing is what he finds in the backyard of this palace. Okay, you ready? Are you holding your chair? Okay, so Bietak found in the backyard of this palace, he found 12 graves. 12 graves. So if you go to the WhatsApp, you will see in the next document, you will see the picture of the graves. Do you see it? It says chapter 7 at the I didn't put here the
Document 7?
Document 3. It says document 3, sorry. Document 3. You have it? Document 3? Okay. This is the actual graves. Now, what do archaeologists do? They take these archaeological finds and they try to rebuild it, to reconstruct what was here. So here he found 12 graves, 11 like normal graves, and one of them with the shape of a pyramid. Okay, so in the next one, document 4, you have the actual reconstruction of the graves. You see it, document 4.
Yes.
So 1, 2, 3, and you see on the left side, you see the palace. All right. So David Roll thinks that this palace was the house of Joseph. All right, and these 12 graves were the graves of the brothers, and the number 12, the pyramid, was the grave of Joseph himself.
No.
So let's see. Wait. What?
Yosef was buried in the.
No, Joseph was buried in Egypt. So let me. No. All right. No. Now, look now. Listen. What did he find in what's supposed to be Joseph's tomb. Okay, so tomb. So first of all, it's he finds that there was nothing in it. Everything was removed. Unlike the other graves that he found the bones, why would you find bones in graves? Given the fact that there are so many burglars and so many thieves during centuries, okay? But for them, pottery and bones is of no value. So they would take the gold, they would take whatever of value, they will leave the bones. But it says there was nothing in it. No coffin, no bones, no pottery, no mummy beads, no weapons, no gold or semi-precious stone, nothing except a few fragments of white limestone, a few fragments of something, Then they discovered a robber's tunnel cut down from the chapel into the burial chamber. And in that tunnel, much larger fragments of the same limestone. So they found little pieces of limestone, and then they found a bigger piece of limestone. And with that, when these pieces were reconstructed, they turned out to be the head and upper torso of a colossal statue, which must have once stood in the chapel before the pyramid. Do you understand what he's saying? Now, in this tomb that has the shape of a pyramid, they found a tunnel, a chapel, and there was a statue that was destroyed. Okay, but that statue it was rebuilt and reconstructed. But where was the body? Where is the body? So he says, tomb robbers don't steal pottery or bones. They go for treasure. They know there is no intrinsic value in bones. It seems to all the world that it was not a robbery or vandalism, the removal of these bones, but rather a pious act of removal. The body had been taken out along with all the grave goods. It sounds like who? Like Yosef. Yosef asked before he died, he says, take my bones and bring them to Eretz Israel. And ויקח משה את עצמות יוסף עמו, כי ישביע את בני ישראל. And we have a testimony, it's written in the Torah, that Moshe Rabbeinu took the bones of Yosef, and they took it, we took it like a treasure, and took it to Eretz Israel, to Shechem, until today. Okay, so no bones, as opposed to all the other tombs there. All right, so it says that this pyramid shape, it cannot be like other than is not of a pharaoh, but says that it looks like it's from a vizier. Now, to finish, now what happened with this statue, the fragments of limestone of this statue? They were rebuilt, and there was a presentation given by a lady called Dorothea Arnold from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Okay, so she delivered a paper. Okay, she had carefully examined the workmanship and style of the Area F Colossus of this statue, and by comparing it to statues of Amenemhat III, had come to the conclusion that it had been carved in the royal workshops of Hawara. Now, this is a museum curator. They have no interest in relating to anything of the Bible. They don't accept David Roll's chronology. So she says this has been built by the same people who built the Hawara things in the time of Amenemhat III, the pyramid site and famous labyrinth of the king at the entrance of the Fayum in the Middle Egypt. So according to Arnold, the owner of the statue had close connection with the court of Amenemhat III. So he says, needless to say, this was music to my ears. This is David Roll talking. I forgot. This was in 2004. He says, I attended a British Museum scholarly colloquium entitled the second intermediate period in Egypt. Okay, and the rest is what I read for you. Back in 1995, I had argued that Yosef was a vizier of this pharaoh, and that he had been responsible for saving Egypt from annihilation brought on by a series of massive floods, etc., etc. Now they reconstruct this this statue, and I want to finish by showing you the last document. Here is document 6. Document 6. So we're going to read these two things, which which summarizes all the discoveries and David Rohl's idea. When you put together these archaeological discoveries with the new chronology, you understand? Now, if you ask an Egyptian archaeologist, this is very ancient. This doesn't have anything to do with before that, 250 years before. Okay, so I'm going to read for you these two texts. With your permission, with this we're going to finish. Now, this text is not David Rohl's talking. This is now from the website of Manfred Bietak, of the Austrian archaeologists that had no interest in doing anything. So the reconstruction of this statue, they saw, first of all, that it belonged to a non-Egyptian person, to a how do you say Semitic in Egyptian?
Asian.
To an Asian, to Asiatic ruler that had some power, okay? And they discover not only that he had a lighter skin, but that he was also wearing, guess what? A coat of many colors.
Stop.
This is not said by David Rohl's. Let me read for you. This is in the look. This is what the official website of the Austrian archaeologist mission at Tel El Daba, which is the enemy of the Bible, had to say about this remarkable statue. So I'm reading to you not what David Rohl is saying, what Manfred Bietak is saying. Okay? Quote unquote, of special interest was the discovery of fragments of a smashed tomb statue. The head, parts of the cloak, and the seat were found in tomb number 19. Other fragments, such as a joining shoulder and the left foot, were discovered in nearby tombs. The statue was made of limestone and originally was larger than life. It portrayed a seated man wearing a striped cloak and a red mushroom-shaped hairstyle. Such hairstyles are found on various Egyptian depictions of Asiatics in how do you pronounce this? Asiatics in the Middle Kingdom. Middle Kingdom Asiatics. Okay. The skin color of a man is shown as yellow, lighter than the Egyptians. In the right hand, he is holding a throw stick, which is resting against his right shoulder. Egyptian Middle Kingdom images showing people as Asiatics most commonly show this as conquered enemies. But this man, on the other hand, held a position of power on a local level. He reached this position, however, by maintaining, even emphasizing, what for the Egyptians constitute an Asiatic. Okay, so let me summarize now. I'm going to read now David Rohl. To me, so this is the conclusion after seeing. So let me summarize. Amenemhat III, okay, the time concise. The tragedies of the famine, the flooding, concise. The Bucher Yosef and all what's there. The Goshen thing and the palace and the tombs around the 12 tombs and this statue that was built according to them in the time of Amenemhat III. Okay, so let me summarize for you. To me, and I hope to you, this all pointed toward one conclusion without searching for it, and it has to be said without realizing it. The Austrian archaeological mission at Tel el-Daba had found the lost city of the Israelites, located at the heart of the biblical land of Goshen. They had unearthed the house of Yaakov and the palace of the vizier Yosef with its 12-column facade representing the 12 sons of Yaakov. They have found 12 main tombs in the palace garden, one of which was a pyramid tomb with a colossal coal statue of its occupant, which once stood in the chapel attached to the tomb. They had discovered that the burial chamber has been accessed in antiquity via tunnel, and the entire contents, including the body, removed. The tomb had not been plundered, but nevertheless it was empty. The colossal coal statue has been smashed into pieces, and parts have rolled into the tunnel. This statue had been made in the royal workshop of Amenemhat III, in whose time there had been a prolonged famine caused by a series of high Nile inundations. The coal statue represented an Asiatic official with yellow skin and spotting an Asiatic throw stick at his scepter. He had flame red hair, and he wore a coat of many colors. Short of finding a name on the missing part of the statue, I could only come to one conclusion. This complex in Tel el-Daba area F was the home and tomb of Yosef, the Asiatic vizier famous for his multicolored dream coat, and the man who brought the Israelites into the land of Goshen, the foreigner who had saved Egypt from the great famine, who had been rewarded by Pharaoh with a magnificent pyramid tomb in the heart of the Asiatic city of Avaris, of Goshen. I rest my case. Yes, that is the one, and I think you can find this reproduction in the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Can I send it to the?
Yeah, you can send it. Yes, this is what Ishaq is going to send right now is a reconstruction of the statue of Yosef. They didn't find all the pieces, but from the few pieces that they found, they have reconstructed that, and I think, you can. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we have. Okay, so
those 11 other tombs are still there.
Are still there, but just with bones. Okay, so thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. All the best to you.
آره لب خریا داره یه شور
The mystery.